Hello and welcome to NARC Live on Wednesday the 21st of April 2021, coming to you from Norfolk on the east coast of England with Tammy M0TC.
Hello.
And me, David G7RP. Great to have you with us. On tonight's show, find out how to make a high performance transceiver with Michael ZL3AX alias G0GPX. A truly shocking discovery in a Salvation Army charity shop. And we find out who works from a shack like this. We've had a few emails, but we could do with a few more guesses. If you have any idea who this is and you haven't already let us know, then drop us drop us a message, not an email, a message on Facebook or BATC, and we will read it out as well. I mean, the clue I did put in the last newsletter was lots of construction aids, and listen to this very carefully. Actually, it says it's only once. And plenty of TV screens there too, all for very good reasons, I'm sure. That helps you?
No.
Think about what I just said and how I said it. Anyway, we'll hope to look for hearing from you. But first, club news from all of you. Thanks for all of you who've written to us this week. In fact, we're going to hold a couple over. But from John 2E0TWQ, I think this could help amateurs with the EMF problems of getting measurements. I was on eBay and came across K-Moon Digital EMF Tester, Electromagnetic Radiation Tester, Electric Field Detector. You know, the way they put lots of things on in their titles. Anyway, I went onto YouTube and took a look and found a video on this tester as well. And he was quite impressed, so he bought one at the included delivery price of just $18.99. Now, I don't know, we haven't yet heard from John how it works and how good it is, so we'll hear from him maybe in the future. But what he thought was, he said, of course, that this might help with measuring some of the EMF problems. I think, John, from reading, though, that the real recommendations is to use the calculator and do it in theory, really because you've got to produce an actual chart and a calculation of everything based on it. But that certainly could help you at least understand EMF. That's one of the wonderful things about having an instrument like that. You know, understand where things are radiating, where an aerial in particular is radiating. It's not going to be a constant pattern all around it, is it? So that's a good tip, and thank you very much for that. Now, talking about EMF, of course, as you know, by the way, it's not urgent because it doesn't come into force on our licenses until the 18th of May, and even then you've got 6 months to do something about it. But the Rsgb in the last few days have published a new video on how to use the Ofcom Rsgb calculator, and I think we've got one here, Tammy, that we can have a quick look at this. So this is the video, and we're on this live now. It's on the Rsgb's YouTube channel. We'll give you that address in a little while, and this you can go on and find. Now, the gentleman you're watching there is John M0JAV, and he's kind of one of the head honchos on this in the Rsgb. He's the one who's done lots and lots of the work and representations to Ofcom and things like that as well. And he's done a video on using the calculator, so you might like to have a look at that yet. Although, as I keep saying, the 18th of May, it doesn't actually come into force then, so limits and things like that may vary. And of course, they are refining the calculator as they go on. Anyway, that's a good video to have a look at. So if you are interested in using the calculator, or have used it before and you want a bit of help with it, that's a good way to do it. Now, the other thing I'd like to do is a little sort of plug, I suppose, partly for the Rsgb's AGM this weekend, and partly because Tammy and I have been working on it and we're doing the technical production of it. And in fact, in the second part of the AGM, after the main AGM business, you will see us host a webinar with the very same John M0JAV on the IGNA regulations and EMF. It's one of the first, I think it's the first live webinar that he's done for the whole society sort of thing. There's likely to be quite a few people watching, of course, and I'll be hosting that, and you will be able to ask questions live though. So if you want to ask the man who knows, he's certainly one of the top men in the country who knows as much as there is to know about that at the moment, EMF, but it might be worth watch that video. He's also doing another one though in July. So, and the details for that, Tammy, I think we can just show where to look. This is the Rsgb's YouTube channel where you can find that video on how to use the calculator, and you'll also be able to watch the AGM live from midday on Saturday. There's the address there, youtube.com/the Rsgb. Now, it's almost upon us. We've been talking about it for a couple of weeks. Of course, Steve G0KY came onto the show last week to talk about International Marconi Day, and it's a great opportunity to actually be able to run a special event station from your home. You do have to be a member of the Norfolk Amateur Radio Club if you're going to use our special call sign, and you do have to be a full license holder. That's to do with the Ofcom regulations about running a special event station. Have we got a look at the page of that or not?
Yeah,
Am I putting you on the spot? I thought we had.
The schedule,
sorry.
if you want
yeah, so
to,
if you want to know how you can book a space yourself to work that, because we must only run one station at a time, you can book a 1 hour slot, and some of them still available. If we can have a look at that, Tammy, now, actually. This is live on the website. It's quite a complicated docs.google.com address, but the best way to do it is to go to our club website at www.norfolkamateurradio.org. Find the Marconi story. In fact, I pinned it pretty high to the top just about half an hour ago to make it easier for you to find. And then you can go live and you can see this. If we can have a zoom down, Tammy, you'll see that, all right, there are the graveyard shift, as we used to call it, 1 hour, at 1 o'clock in the morning till whatever that, to 7. But if you are a night bird, you might find that good.
It's UTC as well, though, just be aware.
Oh, yeah, UTC, of course. So that's an hour before, isn't it? Our British summertime that we're on now. And then you can see some of the slots are there, but there's one between 1 and 2.
So that would be between 12 and 1.
12 and 1, sorry, yep.
Is that right?
No. That's between 2 and 3. These times, as Tammy quite rightly have pointed out, UTC, which is GMT, or sometimes called Zulu time, all right? So UTC, it's an hour before.
So there's a few in the later afternoon.
But there are some around there in good hours. Yeah, look at that. Yeah. There's one there between 5 and 6, basically, and 6 and 7. Yeah. British summertime, that is. So there's plenty of slots there. A fantastic opportunity. If you've got a full license and you're a member of the club, you want to run an hour station on that, on any of the modes between 160 metres top band and 10 metres. There we are. So get on there to have a look and have a look at the website. If you want more information, really just go to norfolkamateurradio.org. It's got all the information there you need to know. And of course, if you're not going to operate a station, if you don't want to run a station, there'll be plenty of activity as well, and you can get points and things for doing that. So if you can't actually run a station, why not try and activate one, or why not try and make a QSO? There won't be the pressure of the usual sort of contest, although lots of people want to make the contacts. There will be a chance to talk about it a bit as well. So thank you very much to Steve G0KY for organising this event. Now, I talked earlier on about a shocking discovery from a Salvation Army shop. Well, we got this from John M6JAU. NARC members might be interested in this electrical item recently donated to the Oxfam, where I volunteer. When I was a child in the 1950s, Merit were a major supplier of items for children, from plastic kit racing cars to chemistry sets. This device is basically a buzzer run from a 4.5 volt battery called a 126. I don't think you can get them anymore, but I powered it with 3 AA cells and a battery holder, he says. The buzzer part has an adjustable contact with locking ring, and the coil cord can be slid in and out to investigate the effect. This special feature of this Merit product was the pair of silver tubes. You had to persuade someone to hold one in each hand. You then connect the battery and they get an electric shock. Charming. If you were really persuasive, you got several people to hold hands in a ring, the end ones holding the cylinders, and you could shock them all in one go. I did give it a quick test and I didn't get a horrible jolt, just a mildly unpleasant tingling. And I love this bit, and this is for really radio amateurs here. The instructions suggest you might like to add a Morse key and a long wire aerial and send messages to a radio in another room. Then, as an afterthought, they pointed out this was probably legal and to do without a license. And I don't think you get a license because that would be a truly wideband transmitter. Do you know what, though? The exciting thing is, and we get quite a few things you kindly send to us, but when I saw this, I immediately recognised it as something my dad had one of those. And I think I didn't like it though. I didn't like this feeling of getting a shock and stuff like that. So I think I hated it really. Maybe it was punishment even. I don't know. Not that I was ever bad. Do you understand, Tammy?
Course.
You know, I was a good child, as you know. But anyway, that maybe some of you remember that as well. I can't be the only one, and John can't be the only one with on that. Anyway, one of John's friends, John, by the way, if you don't recognise the call sign M6JU, he runs our Bright Sparks, and one of his friends is Richard M6UES, and he also copied the same email that he sent to me to Richard, and then Richard wrote back and said this: I can add to this. I remember being at middle school when first interested in electronics, and someone in our class made their own electric shock giver using the same 126 or 1289 battery and a small transformer complete with electric motor, apparently removed from a dead television or something like that. The pinion on the motor had the braids of the output cable touching it as it went round to produce a repeated on-off a sort of effect of a shock. Pretty effective, I recall. I didn't know that there were dedicated devices on the market back then. In the end, talked about another even worse one, which I don't even mention on here, about using some starters or something like that. Anyway, he says, but there is a modern equivalent. So if you really, this enthuses you to have a go, you can buy a thing called a finger Russian roulette, which sounds all evil as well. Here it is. He got this from Hawkins Bazaar a few years ago. Look at that. So you can still buy the things. So they can't be illegal. It had 5 finger slots for the victims, it says. You pressed a button, an LED raced round, and one person got shocked.
Do you know what? I think I've seen those,
really?
Actually, yeah.
This sounds awful. Well, I'm not coming to your parties then, Richard, if you're going to have that there. Anyway, I suppose it's all for fun, but only one of them gives you an electric shock.
Yeah.
And apparently that's recently, so it must be legal to do that. But I think if you've got a weak heart or something, it's probably not a great idea, honestly.
No.
Anyway, thank you ever so much for both John and Richard for sending us that. Maybe you've got memories of that.
We've had a comment. Mark Tuttle says, I had a shocker as a kid and I've still got it.
Oh, right. So was that the Merit one then, I guess?
Maybe.
Yeah, because it was a thing. I don't know if it was popular, but it was, say, one of those things when we got the photo in, I said, wow, I've had one of those. Anyway, all right, jolly good. Peter, M0VR, I got up an apology to make, Peter. I found, we have lots of emails, you can imagine, not just for this, but for lots of other things we work on. And I was going through some emails trying to find something, and I came across one that I don't think we'd ever used of yours. It was a picture. It said, we just came across this picture, which which Peter sent us a little while ago. I wondered if you'd like to show the club how small we are when it comes to space travel, he says. I expect you have already experienced this wonderful display. Well, we think so. We're not actually sure, and I looked at your email, Peter, and I don't think it said where it was taken. I'm guessing it might be something like Cape Kennedy, Florida. Canaveral, that's right. But anyway, maybe you'd like to know, if you're watching tonight, maybe you could just drop us a quick note where that was taken. Anyway.
It's massive, isn't it?
It's
the
compared
rocket
to the
pack
person.
off a shuttle.
Yeah, and even that picture, though wonderful that picture though it is, though, Peter, I don't think it really gives you the idea of how big it is. Certainly at Florida, they've got the Saturn V rocket, haven't they? And the size and the scale is just, and that, bearing in mind that big orange thing, is just a fuel load, isn't it?
Yeah, they get rid of that, don't they?
Yeah, jettison it. So anyway, that's our little people, he says.
Yep.
Tammy, every week you surprise us with your little people.
Let's
have a look.
People, okay, well, my little people this week. Here we go. This is called watering, which is very apt at the moment as everybody's watering in their greenhouse.
Except you, because you were too busy, aren't we?
Except me, because I've been too busy.
Oh.
But I think that's pretty cool. So
now
he's used his pair of headphones to...
Oh, it's a sprinkle.
To water his plants.
As I said, like you at home, I don't get to see this until you do. And so I don't have time to think about it. And of course, yes, those little earbuds, they've got little tiny holes in them.
It's like a shower head, isn't it?
A shower head, yeah. That's lovely. And an old, really old-fashioned transistor radio. We used to call them transistor radios, Tammy. Do you remember the day?
No.
Thanks. Okay. That's really good, though, isn't it?
Our guest is really laughing.
Our guest is the other side of the world in New Zealand is laughing his head off now at this. So he can see these as well. Anyway, if you like that picture and you want to have a look at more, there's the address at the bottom left of your screen, miniature-calendar.com. By the way, you know, we don't have far home to go home from work. We do this in our works premises, do we?
No.
But you know, every night for the last 5 or 6 nights, I walk home from here and I'm hit by a bike. Every time.
Right.
But don't worry, it's just a vicious cycle. You like that one?
No.
Okay.
Keep going.
Moving on. No, the guest doesn't like it either. Michael doesn't like it. Okay. Right. Anyway, this time of week, let's get down to the real biz, because the shack of the week.
Yep.
Who works from a shack like this? Who do you think works from a shack like this? Okay. Have we had any guesses?
I don't think we've had any extra guesses online. Let me just have a quick look.
Okay.
No,
All
we
right.
haven't.
Well, let's read out then the ones we've got. You've got your chance to get in really quickly now if you can. John 2E0TWQ says, I think this week's shack could be Robert G4T UK, as I know that he's moved and this looks like a temporary shack at his location. Oh dear, is that a bit of an insult? Maybe I shouldn't have read that bit. Anyway, so John thought that. Mark G0GJ says, hi Dave and Tammy, if this was a video, we'd see loads of flashing LEDs. So I believe the shack is Peter G0FVG. And Sonny M0SYW crept just under the wire in the deadline today and says, is it Pete G0FVG? He says he's part of the streamers with LGJ as far as he knows. So Tammy, reveal. Whose shack? Have we had any guesses? No.
No.
Whose shack? It is.
I can reveal that it is Pete G0
It is Pete.
FVG shack.
So Mark and Sonny, you got it right. Thank you ever so much for the guess. And sorry, John, I shouldn't have read that second bit out. Okay, so there we are. Now, we're going to go back in time for this. We are, as I keep saying, but you keep rewarding us with your shacks. And this is, though, we're getting, I think I have 2 more left. I've sent 1 more in the week. Anyway, we have got one here. Now, this is a bit of a blast from the past. We have already seen this person's current shack, but they wanted us to show it, this one, which was from about 6 and a bit years ago. So let's have a look. Who do you think worked from a shack like this? You recognise those hands?
Or the
Exactly.
jumper.
Or the jumper, yeah.
Or the bottle of Coke.
Oh, yes. And that dates it a bit. Look, they're
Yeah.
not quite like that now, are they? Okay, so, and there's a different rig there. I can't quite see what rig that is. I expect you do at home. It's got one of those micro ham Kia things at the top, look. Something like MFJ, something there. Anyway, I'm sure you can all look at home. Looks like a Kenwood, can't remember the number.
Radio.
Yeah, Kenwood Radio, yeah. But the one in the above it, anyway, is, yeah, I can't remember which one that is. But anyway, if that's a clue, this is someone who worked from that shack about just over 6 years ago. You've got a map of the world there to choose from. I don't know if that's going to be a clue, but they are a club member. If you know who that is, drop us an email. Don't put it on Facebook or anything now, but drop us an email by Wednesday at 3 o'clock with who you think that shack was. radio@dcpmicro.com. Okay. Why are you laughing?
I've just read a joke that is just coming on Facebook. It's about as good as yours.
Right, go on, then you deliver it.
Richard, oh no, what is it?
Ricardo de Ponza. Don't know who that is.
I rang for a takeaway yesterday. I said, do you deliver? And he said, no, we just do lamb, fish or chicken. Or chicken or fish. Right, keep
That's
going.
quite good, isn't it? Yes, okay. Sorry for the vegetarians that we might have just insulted, including moi, or you rather. Anyway, never mind. All right. Just to tell you what's happening really next week at the club before we meet our guest tonight. On Sunday, we've got, Saturday, of course, we have the International Marconi Day. Details on our website. On Sunday, GB2RS News at 7 o'clock. On Monday, the 26th of April, Monday Night Net. And this week, they're going to revisit some of the past subjects. A lot of stuff they haven't discussed as well. Steve G3EVA hosts that as usual. 8:30, it's the 80-metre CW Net. And next Wednesday, here, 28th of April, Mark Live. You know, I talked about getting to knows, and I talked about a lot of our club members have got an interesting story. Well, we know someone who has, and he's going to come on and do it. Donard Dick Hogan, M0KRK, is going to tell us about his fascinating life, getting to know more about him. There we are. We picked a nice, cheery picture of him at one of our Christmas parties, I think.
It was him doing a charades game, I think, at a Christmas party, so I couldn't resist that picture.
That's not very fair.
Sorry,
Yes, you can just see
sorry, Donard.
you just see my hand there, probably, showing him what charade to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's had a fascinating life, I can tell you. I mean, I've just written a few of the things down there we talked about a few weeks ago when he offered to do it. Fascinating life with PhD chemistry. Hall measurements, Hall as in the electronic measurement, Hall effect, magnetic fields in silicon. Manufacture of microwave diodes and microwave measurements. Mullard, Hazel Grove, power semiconductors. You may not, if you're under a certain age, you may not have heard of Mullard, but they were a real force in semiconductors and now became part of the Philips group. He worked for them, and then he had another session, part of his life, blowing up semiconductors. So that's fascinating. We'll find out about that. He also then retired, but then, like a lot of people when they retired, he went and do even more, and he now works a lot with the IET and with amateur radio, and he's part of the Rsgb examinations department as well now. So loads of things we're going to find out about Donald from his younger life, from his PhD right up through his life, working life. And that's next Wednesday on NARC Live here at 7:30. Plus, of course, all the regular stories and the Who's Shack. Let us know if you've got another shack, or if you've got a story or something like that, like the shocking machines earlier on, anything like that. We'd love to hear from you. Drop a line to this usual address, radio@dcpmicro.com. Do it by next Wednesday at 3 o'clock at the latest, and we look forward to hearing from you. And the other thing is, don't forget, we do send a card. I found it this week. We've got one of these cards, and we're happy to send this NARC Live greetings card to anybody you like. They don't have to be a club member. They don't have to be a radio amateur. If anybody you just think will be cheered up by a card from your club. In fact, I'm going to read you out now an email which I got just this morning from Paul G4XBT, who I know a lot of you knew from when he was in Norfolk. He now lives in Poland. He's now called, so he's now SQ1 NXQ, and he says, I'd like to thank you for the card you sent. It arrived on the worst day of my side effects. It helped me through the day. Luckily, all have gone now until the next session starts next week. Keep up the great work, and regards to everyone at NARC who remembers me, and of course the members that don't know me as well. He's having treatment for throat cancer. So this card really does cheer up. So if you know somebody like that, or you think that might make a difference to their day, then let us know. We'll be very happy to send it. And of course, as well, check our website. Have I just thrown you here by doing that? But you can have a look at our website if you just joined in and come across us here. This is our radio club, and we do this every Wednesday night during these strange world that we're in with the COVID world. But we still do this every Wednesday night at 7:30. NorfolkAmateurRadio.org.
It's above your head like all the time anyway.
Is it? Okay. Right, well, you can probably see off the top of my head quite easily, can't you? Yeah, we aren't going to go into that. Anyway. That's our club news, and now I'm really pleased to welcome someone literally from the other side of the world. He's in Christchurch in New Zealand. His name is Michael ZL3AX, but he was known more for his life when he was in the UK. And I'm just going to read a bit of details, because he used to be G0GPX. He used to come from near Cambridge, although he's now been in New Zealand for 19 years. He also went to St Vincent in the Grenadines for 5 years in the 90s as J87AB. And he still gets the odd QSL card, he says, in the post from 25 years ago. And he worked in Cambridge for Philips PMR, which I guess might have been Pi Telecom back in the day, and Philips Paging for some years. And also lived in Holland and married a Dutch lady. That will be the Philips connection, I think, there. Something that I share with him as well. And he was a member of the Cambridge Amateur Radio and District Society, CARD. So it's brilliant to welcome tonight to NARC Live. Michael, can I call you G0GPX, Michael, or would you rather be known as ZL?
I really don't mind at all.
Okay. Now we must just explain to everybody at home that can we see Michael as well? Sorry, Tammy, I'm not doing your job for you, but it would be nice to see him. Brilliant. We did have one of those wardrobe malfunctions, except it wasn't a wardrobe malfunction. It was a microphone malfunction when we came to join you at about 20 past 7 just to do a test. So you'll be having to hold that mic up, won't you, tonight? Yeah, I'm sorry about that. And did you say that was a 20-year-old microphone?
Something or more. I think I brought it from England 20 years ago.
Wow, okay. Well, the mic that was on your headset suddenly, unfortunately, doesn't work. It worked in the rehearsal a few days ago, but I hope that doesn't put you off too much, though. And we'll have to remind you, Michael, if you don't hold it up, because it's not great gain, is it? But we can hear you fine. And it's lovely to welcome you to NARC Live and back to the old Blighty as well.
Yeah, lovely.
All right. Now, you're here to tell us, though, mainly about a project that you've been working on for some time, haven't you?
Yes, I've been working on it for 3 years now, and probably about 3,000 hours or something. But I've got some inspirational stuff to talk about first to inspire the younger people and old hams alike, if you like.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, absolutely. I think we can share your screen now. So.
Yep. Okay. Well, there's a picture of the HamPiRadio, which I've developed, and it's just coming onto the market. But before that, I just want to remind you that I'm probably, I think it's 9,000 miles under your feet in England, and I'm wondering what you're all doing standing or sitting upside down. Have you ever thought about that? We live on this thing like a football. So, just to inspire you all, have you ever really deeply thought about just what we do as radio hams? And have you ever thought about just how vast this hobby is and what we do. So imagine, first of all, we're, as humans, the top of the food chain on this planet we call Earth. And we circle a star called the Sun, which is enormous compared to Earth. And right now, this solar system is hurtling through space at around 450,000 miles an hour. That's 720,000 kilometers an hour. Just think about that. Now, we're biological beings and the most advanced thinking thing on Earth, supposedly. And some of us have active, busy minds. I know I have. I put my hand up for that. And we process thoughts and possibilities, and then we dream them up, and then we make them into reality. And then our brains command our bodies into movement, and we communicate with others, and we coordinate stuff, and we share stuff. And then we get hold of resources. Now, if you think of us humans on Earth, we get our resources, we either dig them out the ground, or we use stuff that grows out of the ground, or we get it from the air. And that's pretty much the only options we have. So there's like silicon and copper, or aluminium, or rubber, or wood, or gas. And we use all these resources, and then we explore with the stuff, these things, and we play around a bit and bodge it up a bit. And then we discover and we utilize and what is available. And then we invent, and then we challenge and we build. And bingo, we come up with a radio like this one. So that's pretty amazing, I think, anyway. This might blow your mind. I don't know. It does mine.
How long have you been working on that then, Michael?
Oh, 3 years now. 3 years. Just about, but I'm going to go over the Omega, which I started in 1983 in a moment. But with our mouths, we create noise, and we talk into a microphone, and if it's a moving coil microphone, it creates electricity, or a Morse key. We use our hand, and we manipulate the Morse key, and that goes into a cable of copper, and that goes into the radio. And then, the speech we speak compresses and expands the air and vibrates the microphone, of course. And then the radio does some clever stuff, does some filtering, some amplification, adds carriers and that sort of thing. And then it passes the signal through more copper wire to a length of aluminium or copper we call an antenna. And then, bingo, I think it's magic happens. The electrons in the antenna interact somehow and agitate with the natural electromagnetic field. And whoosh, the signal takes off and it radiates into the atmosphere. I think that's amazing. I think it's magic. How does that work? That on a radio, I can talk into a microphone and you can listen, and vice versa, at the other side of the world. Now, on HF I'm talking about, if the sun is magnetizing our atmosphere about right, it becomes like a little mirror, and it sits in the sky and it bounces the signals back and forth to Earth a few times. But if not, what happens to this signal? Well, it goes out straight into space and it never stops. So just imagine every signal you and I have ever transmitted on HF, at least some of it is still traveling through space and going out into space. Yeah. So I'm going to, that should embarrass some of us for what we've said. But if you think about it. Anyway, I'm going to show you a wee movie clip from the clip, which is called, a movie called Contact. Now you watch this, and as the camera moves, or the film moves away from the Earth, what's happening, it starts off with the youngest signals from all sorts of radio and TV services. And then the further out it goes, it gets older and older and older until the very first transmission. So just have a look at this 2-minute clip. Robert Kennedy was shot in that a sniper has fired at President Now, what we should be hearing about now is Morse code, but they forgot to put that on the film. Bit of a shame. But never mind, you get the gist, don't you? That all our signals are still travelling through space like this. I think that's pretty amazing. And guess what? One day, sometime or other, somebody or something might pick our signals up and wonder what on earth these humans are all about.
Yeah.
Now, people are more succinct than others and get to the point, and others people don't. They waffle. That wouldn't be us, of course, as radio hams, would it?
Never.
Now, did you hear Hitler's voice on there? Because in 1936 Olympics, Hitler transmitted one of the very, very first transmissions with television. And on the film Contact, of course, that's the one that the aliens, as it were, get to hear. So there's a good representation of what we've been throwing into space. Scary stuff. Have a look at the movie anyway. I enjoy the movie. I've got the DVD here. So, right, back to the hobby. Now, let's have a look here. In 1983, G4JS, GST and G3WPO published in Ham Radio Today, a wonderful magazine, and they came up with, where's it gone? They came up with this fella, which is called the Omega, and it was a 10-band HF transceiver with lots of stuff in it, speech processor, 100 watts supposedly, and the best thing about this radio was that it had an absolutely rock-solid receiver, very, very well designed.
Can I just ask you there? Sorry to interrupt, Michael. Go for it. Just for us older guys as well. I mean, just what sort of technology was that? Was that semiconductors or was it valve or?
No, it's all purely semiconductors. I think the only integrated circuit in there was on this Wii display module you bought. And integrated circuits, dual inline 14, 8 and 16 pin. And it does have dual gate MOSFETs, so it has the MOSFET technology. Now, I had flu actually, and I was in bed, and my first wife bought this magazine, Ham Radio Today, home, the first episode ever, and I got straight into the hobby when I started reading that. Now, if you're new to the hobby, I could recommend you get hold of every version, publication of Ham Radio Today, which you can download online and have a good read. The articles are really good. They're very practical and they work if you want to build them. So a very good way of getting into the hobby. It covers antennas and how to design antennas and the whole hobby. So a great set of magazines. Anyway, Ham Radio Today, these pair, they produced either a kit or the printed circuit boards. Now, I purchased all the printed circuit boards monthly as they came out. And from 1983 to about 1985, it took me over 2 years to get this fella built and working. I also had an FT902 DM, which I've got one just here in the background on my shack and a couple of other ham rigs, but this receiver was better. And I was so impressed with this radio. I've contacted more than 100 countries on this radio out of the 275-ish I contacted in all, and that was in the solar high in the late 80s. And I did all that on 10 watts because the PA on this fella didn't work too well, and I had this 15 watt Wii amplifier in the back there where you can see my mouse. So I was always delighted to come back to this receiver after using others, and it was an alternative. But what a thing it is to do homebrew like this. I'll show another photograph here. That's the top view. Now, it's an amazing thing to build your own set and spend probably about £500 in those days over 2 or 3 years, and then be able to contact all these countries and to be able to say, I'm using a homebrew rig or a home build rig. And that was such an achievement. It's better by far, I believe, than buying a rig if you're wired that way. So some of the downsides of this radio, however, the construction involved many of these die-cast boxes and lots of these expensive capacitor feed-throughs. And it had all this wiring, which was a nightmare to build. And it was hard to debug because if something went wrong or you wanted to play around with something, you had to open up a die-cast box. So it wasn't all good, but as I said, the receiver and the transmit chain, apart from the PA, were absolutely fantastic. So now, some of the RF concepts in there were, as I say, absolutely solid. And what I've done is to redesign it. I've wanted to do it for years, but it's taken me nearly 35 years to get around to it. And I think my skills have improved over those years. So I've got better at what I've done and become capable of doing this. Now, I was a consultant in Cambridge with software and hardware, but mostly digital electronics. So writing code in C for these Arduinos has been no problem at all. Sometimes challenging, but the RF, I'm not really an RF engineer. But what I worked out when I was much younger was that you don't have to be a great RF engineer to be able to design a good radio. It's like buying a car. You don't know how the engine works inside. As long as you know the concepts of putting blocks together and being able to play around and tune and adjust and adapt, you can actually do really, really well. Well, that was 3 years ago, and now I would say I could design a lot better with RF. So there's the front panel. Now, as you can see, what I've done is all the controls you really, really need are here on the front panel. Now, I want to ask you a question. On your rig, this little fella here called IF gain, intermediate frequency gain, or RF gain it might be called, how accessible is it on your rig? And have you got the knob right there on the front panel to access just like a volume control? And how much do you use the IF gain? Now, that's just one feature of this rig. The things are available on the front panel, really, really important. And each button is basically, on the whole, a one-click per function. So you don't have to wade through lots and lots of menus to be able to use the rig very easily. So IF gain. The best way to use a rig on HF is to set your audio gain here, set the volume on your speaker to a comfortable level, and then leave it alone and use the IF gain, because the IF gain controls the AGC, the automatic gain control of the whole IF chain of amplifiers, and you can reduce the gain there. So when you reduce the gain and you're listening to the station you want to hear, what happens, all the other noise gets reduced and the QRM gets reduced, and all the stuff you don't want gets reduced. And you can still, because you set the AF gain where you want it, just carry on. So with digital rigs these days, I'm not criticising them, but what I'm saying is a lot of people have got waterfalls, and the waterfall, the background noise is up to an S9 or more, or an S7 or an S5. With the IF gain, you can actually reduce the background noise. Now, as long as the signal you want is above the noise somewhat, you can probably hear it and work that station. So that's why the controls here, there are so many things at your fingertip. Notch filter for if someone's tuning or a close by CW signal. Audio gain filter, there are 3 on here, although there are 8 inside, only 3 are on the front panel to reduce the audio bandwidth. Volume, IF gain, AGC decay, and noise blanker. That's for getting rid of the woodpecker, or in my case out here, my electric fence, which is about 400 meters long. It goes tick, 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 and this gets rid of it quite nicely. So apart from that, the rig's got all the usual stuff you'd expect. The RIT, the 4 RIT controls, preamplifier and attenuator, mode, band, all the stuff, memories. Now the memories, I've got temporary memories, which just last as long as the radio is switched on. And you can very quickly just press this blue button here a couple of times to save a memory. And then on a contest day, you can tune up and down the band and save the memories very quickly. And then if you can't get through to the station you want as you're tuning up and down the band at that time, you just save it briefly. And then you can recall that memory when you tune back down the band and know exactly where all the stations are you haven't worked. Down here's the permanent memory, the black button, and this is just flipping between temporary and permanent memories, and then you can put them in E2PROM and save them from one day to the next. What else we've got? Keyer speed. That's for the keyer, so you can put a paddle key in there. I haven't written the software for that one yet. The interface is for the USB to the computer. Spot. Has your radio got spot on the front? Now, when you see the 3 LEDs there, receive, transmit, and on air. If you on CW on Morse and you press the spot key, when you press the key or touch the paddle, you hear the tone, you hear the 800 hertz tone, but it doesn't actually transmit. So you can tune in the tone of the station you want to work without actually transmitting, and then you just touch the spot a second time, and then next time you touch the key, you transmit. Metering, lock, and power control. So that's the controls of this rig. Now, what does it sound like? So I will... You there, David?
Yeah, I would definitely, yeah,
okay.
in transfixed.
Oh, right. Let's see if I can find an audio comparison for you. I've just lost it at the moment. There we are. Radio is getting into the I still have in my logbook from a previous contact quite a few years ago on 10 meters. So that's the 7300, and this is the HamPi.
For comparison, no preamps are selected.
A few years ago, I was covering you on the bank, and I used to write everything down there. Yeah, right, I've got the logbook of my own design here, and it tells me. So there we are. That's the comparison with the 7300. This is the prototype I had a few weeks ago. Oh, blimey, hang on. Sorry about that.
I do hope we're not going to see anything inappropriate here. Right, okay.
Bother. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Well,
Wasn't supposed to
we're
happen.
back on you now, so don't worry.
Definitely wasn't.
It could be worse.
Right, now here's another very brief comparison with my 902DM the other day. So that's another very brief comparison I did the other day with the latest model. So what else to say? Now, the IF frequency, let's get up a picture of some of the boards. Now, this is a bomb. This is a way of building the set. And there's a way with KiCad of creating this bill of materials and a build. So what I do when I'm selling the printed circuit boards, which will be in about 4 weeks' time in the UK and Europe, you can you'll get this as a download, and you just use it on a web browser. So you click the component that you're going to put in. So in this case, a 51 ohm resistor, and then a 10 kilo ohm resistor, and it highlights them on the board. So it makes the build really easy. And then if I zoom in with the wheel mouse, you can just place the 10K resistors where they need to be. So this is a great way of building without having to choose every component again and again and again. So you just get over here on the left 28 10K resistors and just plonk them in the board. Now, a few features of this rig are the IF can be at the moment 8, 9 or 10.7 megahertz. So if you've got a crystal filter, a 6 or 8 pole crystal filter, they fit here. And lots of the component footprints I've done so you can choose various filters. So this footprint caters for about 8 different SSB filter types. You can put the original Omega Toco filter in, the little one, or you can put bigger ones in. Or over here above is a 6-pole discrete SSB filter, which you can get from Spectrum Communications in England. And they're quite a reasonable price, and they work extremely well as well. Over here is the local oscillator. Now, some of you will be familiar with the SI5351 integrated circuit. What I've done with that, you can either fit the module here, which are about 2 or 3 pounds, but they do drift a little bit for the first couple of 3 minutes. So anyone working on data modes probably wants something a bit better than that. So what I've done is cater for the integrated circuit here to be soldered directly to the printed circuit board, and here is a temperature controlled 25 meg oscillator. So that warms up and stays on frequency within a couple of 3 seconds. So what else to say? This fella here is a dual gate MOSFET. I like the surface mount type, but of course what I've done with the footprint is put 4 holes, so you can put the old-fashioned leaded type components in. And so it goes. The same with the mixer here. That can be an SBL1 mixer, or you can put the surface mount, the modern part, on there on the pads instead. So really, a lot of the components avid homebrew people might already have at home. I would imagine they would.
I imagine, Michael, if I can just ask you,
Sure.
a lot of people will be in the older category of a constructor, and they may not have ever done anything surface mount. Is there anything there that you have to solder in surface mount, or has it all got a conventional wired equivalent?
Yeah, great question there, David. Yeah, on this board, which is the radio board, the only surface mount components you have to have are, funny enough, those 3 I showed you earlier at the beginning, which are the 3 51 ohm resistors. And the reason for that is they're in a diplexer. and I didn't want any inductiveness, so the surface mount ones are non-inductive.
I guess resistors are quite easy to solder, though, aren't they? In the scale of things, are probably the best thing to cut your teeth on, as it were.
Yeah, but the rest of this board, if you use the SI5351 modules here, then no, everything else is non-SMD, non-surface mount. Now, all the other boards do have surface mount parts on, so I'll try and select one of them. This is the PA. There are, by the way, there are essentially 4 boards to this radio, and they're joined by ribbon cable. And there are very, very, very few actual soldered wires in here, just things like a switch or two. But the rest of it's just done by ribbon cable. So this is a PA. And yes, this is, as you can see, surface mount. That's where the transistors fit, resistors and capacitors. The smallest size is 0805. And it's not bad. I put descriptions on the website how to mount surface mount. It's actually quite easy. What you do, you just blob a little bit of solder on one of the pads, not both, just one. And then with tweezers, you put the surface mount component on and solder one end only and align it. And then you just put a blob of solder the other side. It's actually really quick.
Can I just, and can I just, again, for those constructors who've not done any surface mount, because I do this professionally, I can try and put it in context. An 0805 is quite a large surface mount component by comparison. Nowadays, certainly if you opened your latest rig or your mobile phone, you'd find tiny, tiny components, a fraction of that size. An 0805 is probably the next one down from a 1206, which was the original largest sort of size surface mount. So, and I mean this, and we didn't have a chat in detail like this before, did we, Michael? But if you ever wanted to do a bit of surface mount, the 0805s is quite a reasonable one to get started with. And if I may, the advice I always give to people in the club when they start a surface mount is a right-angled pair of tweezers, probably the best tool. And you can buy those literally in Poundland. In this country, and that sort of very cheap Dollar Tree, that sort of low-cost sort of shop, you can buy several of these stainless steel tweezers, which have got a right-angle one, and they're really going to help you get your head around that. So what are we looking at now, Michael?
Right, what we're looking at now is an example. This is an older version of the printed circuit board. This is the receiver board. So here's the local oscillator, the SI5351 module. Fed here with a 4-pin cable, a 4-wire cable for the control using I²C. And I just want to go over this briefly, why this radio works so well and what some of the original concepts that were built in. This SBL1 is a ring mixer, a diode ring mixer. So the cable here, the coax, is coming in from the aerial via the switching and the bandpass filters and goes into this mixer. But one of the things, many constructors will use the SI5351, which gives the right level, about 7 dBm output, and put it straight into the mixer. And that is a big problem. It won't work very well. It will work and you will hear stuff, but to get absolutely rock solid RF from the antenna going through to the IF chain, which is here where I'm pointing the mouse, these mixers absolutely must be terminated by a 50 ohm load on at least one of the 3 connections, input outputs. Now you don't want to lose any signal coming from the antenna going through to the IF. So what they did originally, and I've done as well, is to put this 50 ohm attenuator here on the local oscillator input of the mixer. So that matches the mixer to 50 ohms. Now, of course, the 7 dBm still going into this mixer, but of course with such a heavy attenuator, you need a lot more power than this thing can provide. So that's what this FET is here, the J310 and this coil. They bump the signal up to probably plus 20 or 30 dBm. No, not that high, can't be that high, but it bumps it up to a point where after the attenuator, you're still getting 7 dBm into the mixer. And then it goes through this diplexer, which is basically a bandpass filter and a notch filter combined, and then into this first stage, BF998 dual gate mixer, the first IF amplifier. So that's just to emphasize some of the way that this becomes a really robust receiver. So let's click that photo off.
So roughly how many, you may be going to tell us this, but how many circuit boards and things is the transceiver got?
Oh, there are 4. So
Okay.
there's this is the radio board with the controls here. This is the filter, by the way. This is one I took out of an old Omega. So there's the receiver board. Let me see if I can click on some more. There's the, where are we? Here's the PA. That's an old version of the PA, not the current one. So we've got the input here, going through amplifiers, 2 15-watt push-pull amplifiers there, and then 2 RD70 MOSFET amplifiers here. And these are really, really robust. The 7300 and various other Japanese rigs use these 2 transistors, the MOSFETs. They're about, I think they're about 15 or 20 pounds each. But you won't need to buy more than 2. They won't blow up. The only way of blowing these fellas up is to have too much current, i.e. too much drive, or too much heat, allowing them to get too hot. Pretty much after that, you cannot damage them. And this is the final transformer. That's a bit of fun to wind, but very, very efficient. And then these are the low-pass filters at the back, and the relays to drive the low-pass filters. Now,
I don't know if you mentioned, by the way, Michael, because I don't remember if you did, and forgive me if you did, the power output of this transmitter?
Oh, it's 100 watts.
Right, okay. Right, so it's the standard sort of 100 watts that you'd expect on most commercial rigs nowadays.
Yep, pretty much 100 watts on single sideband and CW. And it goes, this chain, I think there'll be a little bit less on 50 and 70 megahertz. So I have included 4 meters in this radio, especially for the UK hams and Europeans. We're not allowed to use it down here, but that's what this low pass filter on the top right is all about. So yeah, that's the PA. There's the... This is the computer board, or the CPU board, which is back behind the front panel. So there are 2 Arduinos here. This is a Nano, and this is a Nano Every, which is a more powerful Nano. And they just talk to each other and control the radio. There's not much else to say on this board, really. It runs the display. It runs a little keyboard. Down here where the LED is a USB hub. And over on the left, you can't quite see it, is a sound card. And my friend Jeff DDX, G0GDDX in Cambridge, he's probably listening, I hope he is, and he suggested I put this in. So that will give you control from an external computer with commands on the USB cable, and also it's got the an audio USB card to send and receive audio from external. And below there, you can just see a little bit is the bandpass filter board. There we are, there's the bandpass. And the bandpass filter board has 16 bandpass filters. So it goes from 1800 meters. This transceiver will receive, as it is, 1800 meters, and the other one, whatever it is it 400 and something meters? I can't remember, but the 2 below HF. So any experimenters wanting to get into LF, you need rather a long antenna probably, can do it. And also it will at some stage on the top right here. This is a 2 meter low pass filter.
Oh.
So it can caters for 16 bands. Initially, it will do all of the HF bands on receive and transmit, and all bands on receive. Up here on the right is a 18 dB preamplifier. Also, there's an attenuator there, either a 14 or 18 dB attenuator. So that's the band pass filter. So 4 boards, computer, radio, band pass, and PA. So it gets rid of all those die-cast boxes and makes things a lot simpler. Just these 3 or 4 ribbon cables, and makes it a much easier set than the original one, of course, as you'd expect. So there we are.
Well, Michael, though, but I mean, this is some project. I've got to say to you, you know, this is a heck of a project, actually. Did you, firstly, is this all your own work? Is this something you did yourself, or have you got someone that you worked with?
Well, yeah, thank you for that. I'd forgotten that. Now, at the beginning, I'm just looking up his call sign, Will, or Dewan, a Welsh gentleman. He lives in the North Island of New Zealand, or he did. He helped me out tremendously with advice and help with the circuit, modifying the circuit at the beginning. Unfortunately, he passed away 2 years ago at his radio bench, and he keeled over, unfortunately, and had a heart attack and died. So that was Dewan, GW4SAE, if anybody knew him, or ZL4SAE was his call sign. And his webpage is still somewhere on WordPress, if you're interested. He does a lot of small projects.
But obviously, so if you've had to finish this project in the last 2 years, a lot of it is yours. I mean, it's quite, to me, I have to say, as someone who's done electronics for most of their life, and this is some project, you know, to be honest. I mean, I did see, obviously, the pictures and things that we can see on your website before, but I hadn't realised there was so much to it. So this has really been, surely, you know, did you say 4 years you've been working on this?
No, about 3.
About three. I mean, it must have
probably
been, with just you working on it, it must be a completely dedicated, this is all I'm going to do for 3 years, wasn't it?
No, I have a day job as well. I'm a counsellor.
Oh,
so
really?
I help people,
Okay.
I help people with their marriages and with depression and anxiety. And yeah, that's what I do. I'm semi-retired, so I do 10 or 12 hours of that a week. That keeps me busy.
Well, it's amazing.
I did say I got an active mind, didn't I?
I don't know when you sleep. I don't have time to do things like that. But we have had a couple of questions already, and I'd like to read those to you. But I'd like to tell everybody else as well at home, if you're watching this and you've watched an overview of the radio, maybe in a minute we can get a rough sort of spec as well of it again, just at the rundown of what it does. I'm sure you've got questions for Michael as well, whether they're about how he did it. He was very modest earlier, and I thought saying he wasn't an RF engineer, but to produce something like that, you must have had some good knowledge. But if whatever the question is, whether it's about that, whether it's about the transceiver, I'm sure some of you probably, one of the questions in my head is how much of the circuit board is going to be, are they going to be complete sets of components, and all that sort of thing. So don't forget to ask them now on BATC or on Facebook, wherever you're watching. By the way, your friend Jeff Wilkins, he's put a note on saying he's listening, so he's there as well. And I think he's going to help you, isn't he, to distribute some of the PCBs in this country, I believe.
Yes, that's right. Jeff very, very generously said, at least initially, he's happy to distribute printed circuit boards. So this is the plan. I don't want to do complete kits. I've seen too many people keel over by providing complete kits. Now, I am a one-man band, and I've done this by myself. I'm not a big business like Ellicraft or something. So I'm not geared up for kits. So what we're going to do is sell bare printed circuit boards. They will be available in the UK in about 4 weeks' time, and Jeff will be distributing them. He's G0DDX from Cambridge, and I guess his lovely wife, Lynn, might even help him, I should imagine. I don't know. Now, the boards are already available in the UK, in New Zealand. Now, the cases I've found to be very expensive to get manufactured, laser or water cut in New Zealand. So what I'm doing with the case is Jeff is trying to get some quotations at the moment to get them manufactured in England, but I'm also going to make all the DXF files for the case design available online. So you can download them and you can get them built at your local shop in your town if you want to. You can get quotations. So the case design will be open. You can do what you like with it, or of course you can build your own case. Now, what else? I'm just about.
Can I ask a couple of the questions? Because I think.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I think we'll start with the one of the first ones. By the way, we shouldn't have done that's my fault. I did a joke earlier, which I don't normally do. And that started sort of Joke Central on Facebook. So I'm trying to, I'm not ignoring them, guys, but excuse me, if you want to read them, do have a look at them yourself, because I really want to talk about this radio. That's what we've got Michael here. We've got, firstly, a comment from Paul Brooks says, "Hi, Michael, regards to Brent, Dennis, Rick, Wayne, and all the rest of the guys and girls." Anna, he's got there. That's Paul Brooks, M1AFQ. Do you know who that is? Or do you know who he's talking about in terms of Brent, Dennis, Rick, Wayne, and all the rest?
I can't at the moment, unless it's from Cambridge.
Okay, well, maybe Paul, if you're still watching, I'm sure you are, then let us know, or let us know, and we'll tell Michael who you mean there. No, that's all right. So, a few other questions. We'll just mention one thing, if you don't mind, just a slight side. John mentions, by the way, that electric shock machine, if you are interested in that, that's being advertised on eBay at the moment under Berry Oxfam shop. All right, so Oxfam it was, not Salvation Army, sorry. Back to some of the questions. Now, Nigel 2E0NOK says, does this come with all the components, or do you have to buy them separately? I guess you've answered that because it's a set of circuit boards, is that right?
Yeah, I'd like to add a bit more. The bandpass filters, bandpass coils, cans, I'm just negotiating with a company to build them. So I'm going to plan to sell kits of 42 of them, the 10mm Toco type cans. And Jeff is encouraging me to do a limited kit. So a limited kit would include all the ferrites, all the semiconductors, probably the integrated circuits and the nano computers pre-programmed, and some of the crystals. So all the hard to get bits, but all the rest of the bits, no, you'd have to source yourself. Or, of course, if there are a few of you decide to build them in a club, you can order them as a group.
Yeah, sure, okay, that's good. I think we see a lot of kits like that over here where you can just buy the raw boards, or you can buy the sort of main parts that might be difficult to get, or things like your program parts as well. Mark Tuttle's asked, please ask Michael if the HamPi has facility to accommodate a narrow CW filter for the IF.
No, it doesn't actually. It's just got the SSB filter, which is whatever you put in. I'm using 2.2 kilohertz. And then following that up is the audio filter, which narrows things down to less than 800 hertz. So at the moment, not. I have been considering it, but it is possible. But I'm not sure it's necessary. Does he think it's necessary? Perhaps he could contact me and email and we can discuss
I know Mark is one of our really avid constructors and very keen on making things, so I'm sure he'll tell you as well. It's also someone, I think, who might be able to... Pardon? Oh. Right, we'll put, by the way, Michael, we'll just put your email address actually on the screen now, in fact. So, Mark, if you want to drop Michael an email directly, there we are, HamPiRadio@gmail.com. Got another question for you, although, by the way, Mark, if you want to share that question now, everybody can hear the answer. Bob Fuller says, is it a complete kit of work? I think we've answered that. And what sort of money are we looking at, and is the case included? So those sort of circuit boards, which is obviously the core and the key of it all, do you know how much they're going to be in England?
It's been really hard to decide. I think the four, well, there are 6 boards altogether, including the front panel and the keyboard, which are printed circuit boards. I think they're going to be about £95 or £100 UK pounds. Okay.
I mean, I'm just so we don't know each other, and I'm not trying to, but that may sound a lot of money to people at home just for a raw circuit board, but circuit boards are expensive, and if you look at the size of them and you look at that front panel, that's all made out of a circuit board. And I can tell you that circuit boards like that are not cheap to buy. So I'd have thought that was quite a reasonable price for all the circuit board. Do you have any idea, not trying to put you on the spot here, or Jeff, yet roughly how much it might cost someone to build? Just to the nearest sort of 50 or £100 even, because obviously it is part of someone's decision, Michael, when they start a project. They may buy it, for example, they may buy the circuit boards and then buy parts and make this quite a long-term project to build gradually. But I think they need to have a vague idea of how much it's likely to cost them at the end.
Yeah, I wish I could say. I wouldn't like to guess at the moment. I think the best thing is to look at the photographs on the website, HamPiRadio.com, and check out the major bits. I do need to get around to doing a rough costing. But I'm sorry, I don't have one at the moment.
No, I do think it's, if I might as well, Michael, I do think it'd probably be worth it, because I say it's part of that decision. And yes, although one thing that's nice about this is that you could buy it gradually as your budget continues.
Yeah.
Ray G3XLG has said, I saw Michael had a switched AF filter for CW or SSB, but does it have a narrow crystal filter for CW? Maybe that was what you mentioned, what it was asked earlier.
The answer is no, not at this time.
Okay, well, I think you've got at least 2 CW fans, and but I must tell you that here in Norfolk as well, we do have a lot of CW fans, so that may be something that you'd like to think about. He says also, he mentioned a USB connection to the PC, but will there be a LAN connection too? And what switching is used for the antenna, a relay or a pin diode switching, Ray says.
Okay, good questions. No, there's not a LAN connection. It is, remember, a homebrew set, and there had to be limitations. I couldn't put everything in that, say, a modern a Japanese transceiver has, but it has USB Type B on the back, which is a strong one. Now, what was the other question there? Sorry.
The other question was the switching used for the antenna a relay or a pin diode switching?
Oh, yeah. I spent months trying to get a pin diode circuit working, literally hours and hours and hours, and I was never happy with it. And in the end, I've switched to a very fast miniature 2 millisecond relay, which is what many of the modern transceivers do, and so you can still go full speed, break in CW, no problem at all.
A few milliseconds, yes. It's funny that in my day job, as it were, I design and we manufacture and sell electronic products, and we're doing a project for a client at the moment. And when he saw that there was a relay in the circuit, he did query this a little bit and saying it's a bit old-fashioned, isn't it? But I pointed out that relays are still really good solutions for some things. They're still used lots in cars and all that sort of thing. So they're not. They've still got a real place, haven't they, in life?
Oh, absolutely. I gained about 2 to 3 dB on the receive path, and I lost absolutely nothing by going to relay control.
Right.
Now, there's also a third little relay on the PA now to control a linear amplifier, and also an ALC input, analog input back to the computer.
Okay, well that would be good.
So full linear control.
And by the way, I should say to this, because I know you said you're going to be working on things like a rough costing for building this, and how much you think it might cost, whether it's going to be £400, £500 or whatever it might be. And then when you do that, do share it with us, because we've got, as well as this program, we do have a newsletter that goes out every week, and we'll be happy to share that with people. Paul Brooks, Paul on MFQ has come back with those names that I gave you earlier and says they're all Christchurch hams. So maybe you thought you might know them. That maybe help you.
Right.
Maybe help you. If you've got a call sign or something, Paul, that you can think of, that maybe Michael will recognise some of those.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of trying to battle between the jokes at the moment, which is fine. Some of them are very funny as well.
Yeah. Please email me though, guys, and say hello.
Yeah. All right. Yes. So that email address again, we'll put on before the end of the programme. Nev M0NFY on British Amateur Television Club. He's over there, and he says, "But where's the pie?" And I think that's a great question. I meant to ask you that because your name of your radio, you have called it HamPiRadio. So he's never said, "Where is the pie?" P-I.
The PI, right? Okay. Well, the pi sign is on the front panel, but the PI, HAMPI, is that's the name of the rig.
Yes. Okay. So it's basically Arduino based, not Raspberry Pi, isn't it?
No, that's funny, isn't it? Yeah, it was because of the Raspberry Pi and all the other Pis going around, and I deliberated a long time with Will about what to call this rig. And ham pie. Well, we like ham, don't we? And we're not all that healthy, us radio hams, some of us. So it was a bit of a joke, and it stuck in the end.
No, I guess. No, it's really good. We're sort of coming towards the end of the show, I think, now. So if you've been watching and you've been waiting to ask a question, this would be a great time to ask it now, Michael. Firstly, one thing I want to go back to is the right beginnings of this, though. Did it start off as just as a DIY project that you were just going to do it for yourself, or did you always have envisioned that you'd let these circuit boards and sell them to the open community? What was the driving force of this design in the first place?
Well, I'm not quite sure. I think I got back into radio after years of doing other stuff, and I got out the old Omega and fired it up and got it going. And I've always wanted to redesign the Omega. Ever since when it was first came out in the 80s, I wanted to redesign it and put a better computer in it and make it work a bit better. And finally, I don't know, I just sat down one evening about 3 years ago. I also build spy radios and clandestine replicas. I used to. That was my thing. But then I thought, no, I need a good project, and this is what I got my teeth into.
All right. Well, we had a guest actually on a few weeks ago who talked about spy radios. Peter Waters. Do you know Peter Waters?
Yeah, I think so.
He's the Waters in Waters and Stanton, and he was one of our guests a few weeks ago. He's very into spy radios. Mark Tuttle, or his call sign G0TMT, by the way, he says that please tell Michael we have already been emailing, and I shared my Arduino code for an S meter with him. So
right.
So he's already in touch with you, I guess.
Yes, that's right. Someone, the S meter, not on this photo, but I've got a peak reading S meter now with bars, and he helped me with a little bit of code or some suggestions anyway. But to code up a peak reading S meter is a nightmare. There'd be goblins in that sort of code. And but it works fine now.
How open is your code? So if people, obviously the circuit diagram, if you're an electronic engineer, is something that most engineers will be able to pick up and modify and play with and tinker with. Yes. But software is often a dark art, and also you may not even share that. I guess as people can make their own, though, you have done that. So can I ask, how open it is, and how open are you to discussing any bits of software or having people help and share code?
I'm aware that people have been ripped off in recent years with various projects, so I'm a bit wary of that. I think initially I'm going to just download the binary and make the binary available. But I'm not at the moment, I don't think, prepared to share the source code. If there's any software engineers out there who want to assist with me in the future, who are trusted, then yes, I'd do that to advance the radio. I'd always thought this radio was a bit like a wiki radio or something, really. So I want to improve it over the years, and so I'm open to suggestions for improvements. And then I'll upgrade printed circuit boards and test stuff down here.
Good, okay.
So I want to make it, although it's a fantastic radio, I believe, I want to make it even better.
Tony, on that sort of subject really, Tony G4EYE has said, is there anywhere we can see the transceiver specifications, mainly for the receiver, he says?
Yes, if you look on the website, HamPiRadio.com.
Here it comes. We're just going to put it up now for everybody at home, actually. There we are.
HamPiRadio.com. I've just started the website only a few weeks ago, so but it's coming on, and the test results page. On that page, I've compared 3 other transceivers I've got here. The 7300, the FT902, and a TS940 I've got. At my radio club, I made an appeal the other week, and a few other hams are going to bring me their radios, and we're going to put them on the test bench, and I'll put some more test results up there, some comparisons.
I mean, I guess the IC7300, which we saw you compare with in the video, and in fact that's on the homepage of your website, isn't it? I mean, that's probably I would guess, probably the most popular rather, or one of the most popular radios around at the moment, because it does so much. It's a modern radio and around about £1,000, so which most people, I guess, would buy as a new radio now anyway. So I've answered the question about the specs. Paul has come back with some call signs that you may know from I think it was from Christchurch Radio Club, wasn't it, Tammy? So Brent, VL3TUI, Dennis, ZL3DEN. Do they make more sense to you?
Yeah, Dennis does.
ZL3 Rick Way, and ZL3WYE Anna, and ZL3ALP, I think. So anyway, those calls are people that he knows.
Wow.
That you may know as well there. So even though it's literally the other side of the world. By the way, what time is it with you at the moment?
Oh, time is 10 to 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
So I'm just waking up now, David.
I know it was pretty early, because the other day when we were setting up a tech rehearsal, a lot of our guests who aren't from the UK tend to be sort of stateside. So I suggested some unearthly time for you. It was going to be about 4 in the morning, wasn't it, or something?
Yeah. Well, I was up at 5:30 this morning.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm sorry.
I'm going back to bed. I'm going back to bed in a minute.
All right. Well, I don't think we have any more questions actually, so we probably can virtually let you do that pretty much now. I think it's a fascinating story and a fascinating project to do. I still can't quite get over that, how one person can do that, when you think that the ICOMs and Kenwoods and Yacers of this world, I'm sure, have several engineers with lots of experience and probably, dare I say, more resources and things at their fingertips than you've had to do it. So I think it's an incredible project, and I hope it really goes well, and I hope that maybe some of our amateurs watching who've got a bit of time and love making things, if any of you want to share what you're doing as well, I'm sure Michael will be interested in that, and of course we'll help to share them with other NARC Live viewers as well. But for now, Michael, I think we can now let you get back to bed, and we want to thank you ever so much for sharing this project with us tonight. Your call sign is, ZL3AX, and we'll just finish in a moment by just going out your web address once again, and I guess people can contact you and things through that. But once again, Michael, thank you very much so much for getting up so early this morning and for sharing this wonderful project. Michael ZL3AX, thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. Bye-bye all.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Michael. That was very good, wasn't it? What a project that is, Tammy. Can we just show that web address again? So if you've been watching this and you're tempted or interested, then if you go to this web address, you can find out much more about the radio. And what we'll do is we'll find out the details. If you're interested in building it, we'll happily put you in touch, although you can, of course, get in touch with Michael yourself, because he does have this friend, Jeff, in Cambridge, who's going to be distributing the circuit boards, which will certainly keep the costs lower, and you won't have any unexpected customs charges and things like that. And we'd be absolutely fascinated if you do take the project on and how you get on with it, because it's not often now that you see a fairly sophisticated kit to make a full radio. Even Elecraft now, who started a lot of this a few years ago, when you buy a kit from them now, as far as I know, they don't make any component level kits now. They're all circuit boards which you basically clip together. So if you've always wanted to make your own radio with every single individual resistor, transistor, IC and everything, this could be a project for you. So do let us know if you get in touch, if you do make it. But that's about it for tonight for NARC Live. Just going to remind you what's happening again. We've got Saturday, we've got International Marconi Day. So please, if you want to make contact on that day, you want to make a contact with one of our guys, then do that. But even better, if you want to run a radio station, a special event from your home, and you're a full license holder and you have a full call sign rather, and you're a NARC member, then please go to the NARC website for details of how to sign up. We've got GB2RS News on Sunday at 7 o'clock on the repeat of GB3MB. Same also on GB3MB for Monday night at 7:30, when there's a Monday Night Net with Steve G3EVA. At 8:30, they've got an 80 metre CW net. And next Wednesday, here on NARC Live, we're getting to know our very own Donard M0KRK and finding out about his fascinating life with semiconductors and all the chemistry and everything that makes them up. So keep sending us your stories and everything else to radio@dcpmicro.com. And we look forward to hearing from you. Hope you've enjoyed tonight. It's been a fascinating evening. But for now, I guess it is over for us. So from Tammy M0TC.
Goodbye.
And from me, David G7URP. Take care of yourselves, and don't forget to get on the air to care. Bye-bye.